What's going on, guys? This is Rob. If you guys enjoy my content, make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that little bell so you never miss out on my sexy voice. Okay, so I've had this question proposed before because normally we would cover a DC video today, but this is more interesting. So I've had this question proposed before because we did the video Red Lantern Hulk. What if the Incredible Hulk got a Red Lantern ring? But the question that people have asked is, but what if Wolverine got a Red Lantern ring? And it's such a cool idea. Like, for those of you guys who don't know, in the Green Lantern mythos, you have the Red Lanterns, which are basically governed by rage. Kind of a hallmark is that when a Red Lantern ring is bonded to a person, it replaces their blood with this sort of like red, acidic plasma kind of substance. And the result is that they go forward as just like these mindless killing machines. You can be cleansed by like a Blue Lantern, but for the most part, until then, you're just sort of like a mindless beast. With Wolverine, it would be a little bit different, I think. Now, at like the outset, right, the gut reaction would be, well, if Wolverine became a Red Lantern by whatever manner and whatever means, he would just go on like a blood-fueled rage and just attack everybody with his claws. But here's the problem with that. If that were to happen and Wolverine were to just snap, lose it, and just start attacking people, somebody would neutralize him pretty fast. I'd bet all the money in my pockets to all the money in your pockets, it would probably be Deadpool, because Deadpool knows exactly how Wolverine's healing factor works, because Deadpool's healing factor is modeled on Wolverine's healing factor. And so most everybody, like especially Cyclops of the X-Men, they know about like the Muramasa blade, which can be used to basically, cut Wolverine and then shut down his healing factor. There's carbonadium, which can slow his healing factor. I mean, there's a lot of different things that they can do to neutralize him. And so because of that, because you're not talking about the Incredible Hulk, where you just have like unlimited raw strength that can just keep, amplifying over and over and over again to the point where he just becomes this unstoppable, indestructible beast, I would actually switch things up. Then I would say Wolverine would not go on like a blood-fueled killing spree. He would still kill the Marvel Universe, but he would do it using guile and stealth. So Wolverine as a character has, well, really, I mean, he's been an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's been part of multiple intelligence groups. Team X, he was part of that Black Ops wet work team before he was rolled into the Weapons Plus program. He's been an Avenger. He's an X-Man. He's played like all these roles. He's been like basically in and out of every single superhero team that exists in Marvel Comics. And so he essentially has like the info. He has the ticket of every single superhero, and he knows how to take every single one of them out. And so from there, like the question becomes, how do you stop Wolverine from becoming like a mindless monster? In truth, I would invoke his healing factor. Like I would say Wolverine's healing factor is this, right? Like when you become a Red Lantern, your heart gets replaced and that's the end of that. But with Wolverine, because he has a healing factor, I would say in this instance, what would end up happening is the Red Lantern ring would bond to himself, right? Like something would happen, Wolverine would freak out, whatever it is, Wolverine, you have great rage in your heart, welcome to the Red Lantern Corps. So Wolverine gets the Red Lantern ring. And then what you would see is this scenario where he just kind of goes like ballistic for a moment in time, for maybe like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever it is. And then his healing factor would take over. And his healing factor would basically like push out all that red plasma, blood stuff. It would essentially purify himself. It would regrow his heart. And then it would just be Wolverine with a Red Lantern ring. Now, the cool thing is that from there, it would break out into like constructs and things like that. It would allow him to like use a Red Lantern ring to create all these Red Lantern Hardlight Constructs. Now, in reality, outside of like the rage and all that kind of stuff, and with regards to the ability to make Hardlight Constructs, there's really no difference between the Red Lanterns and any of the other Lantern Corps. They can all make Hardlight Constructs. It's just Red Lantern Constructs show up as red. But it's basically Wolverine with a Red Lantern ring. Now, on the surface, it doesn't seem interesting. It doesn't seem like that great. But imagine what he could do with that. Like imagine the holy hell that he could unleash. In reality, like again, I think he would do it stealthy and guiley. So the first thing to do would be to take out like small groups that nobody would really notice. They take out like these small little villains here and there, and nobody would really notice that they were gone, at least not at first. I mean, after a while, because they're villains to various superheroes would wonder where they went to. It would be like, okay, we got to start taking out people who are a little bit higher on the totem pole, small groups per se, like superhero groups. So the Inhumans, Wolverine would take out the Inhumans first, because in reality, the humans are largely cut off, like they're isolated from everyone. By the time people figured out the Inhumans were dead, nobody would really have any reason to question it. From there, like it would go into, okay, who does he end up taking out next? Now, this is where the caveat, the big issues begin to come into play, because then you start running into things like the X-Men. The problem with the X-Men is they're such a large group. They're so huge in size that what you end up having is at some point, like almost immediately, people would begin to notice that the X-Men are dying. And that's when I think Wolverine would basically start using like trickery and deception in order to pull off this win. So because he's creating Hardlight Constructs, the question we kind of have to ask here is, can Wolverine make Hardlight Constructs and send them after people without him actually being there? Like what Larfleeze does, for example. Larfleeze creates Orange Light Constructs, and then those Orange Light Hardlight Constructs can essentially kind of think for themselves. They're basically autonomous, but they're composed of the spirits of people that he's killed. We could kind of invoke that to a degree, but I would say Wolverine may have to be there for a short amount of time. And so what you would do is you would have him show up and basically send the superhero community into disarray. And so he would show up to like the Xavier Institute and kill everybody who's there and then vanish. And so people would just be like, what in the world's going on? Like, you know, literally all the X-Men are dead, but Wolverine's not seen anywhere. Now from that point, people would start to wonder, well, if the X-Men are being killed off, then like we have to go through systematically and figure out who's surviving and who's not. And so you'd have like the Avengers, you'd have like the various superhero communities of Fantastic Four, so on and so forth, who would all start to sort of look around and say, okay, you know, what's going on here? And so Wolverine would basically have to like play into that and just say like, I have no idea what's going on. But along the way, you know, he would say like, we should all basically start looking, you know, going into our resources and seeing if we can't figure out who it is that's doing all this. And so from there, it would turn into him like taking out the Fantastic Four. It's like the Fantastic Four are gone. And it would literally proceed in that direction where it's Wolverine just like using a combination of deception, trickery, and manipulation to basically pit the superhero community into finding out who this phantom villain is, more or less, when it's Wolverine the entire time. Now, in terms of like invoking the Hardlight Constructs, like those would only be really used as like a plot device. Those are there, those are things that pop up, but they wouldn't pop up for very long, because I think that what you would start to run into is, especially with someone like Reed Richards, if they had like video footage of the Hardlight Constructs, or there was some kind of evidence of what the Hardlight Constructs were, then people would ask, what are those? And that's when you would start to get into Reed and so on, Reed Richards and Iron Man and probably Blue Marvel, Adam Brashear. They would start to ask questions on like what these constructs are, what they're made of, and they would start to investigate, poke around, different things like that. Now, what this also leads to is questions like Blue Marvel himself, like Adam Brashear, or like the Sentry, or the Incredible Hulk, these powerhouse guys. Now, because Wolverine is so well versed in the Marvel Universe, because he's so well versed with these various superheroes, we'd have to believe he would know how to take them out. The Incredible Hulk is really like unlimited brute force strength. And so I could easily see it being a scenario where Wolverine just like grabs, like literally ensnares him in a Hardlight Construct and then just like flies him into space and just like kind of catapults him into the sun. It would have to be quick and dirty. With Thor, it's a little more complicated, because while he is a powerhouse in and of himself, the idea here is that Thor can technically, he's done it for a brief moment in time, can like survive in space. Now, it can't be done for like a really long amount of time, but it can be done for like a short amount of time. Yeah, now that I think about it, I want to say that in Thor 387, which I can't remember if it was written by Tom DeFalco or Walt Simonson, I don't remember off the top of my head. Regardless, in that story, there was a point where Thor ended up in space. And I think there was a point where he was like, I need to breathe, but he could like hold his breath in space. I think it waxes and wanes. I think it kind of fluctuates. Like some writers say he can breathe in space, others say he can't. I think some say he can hold his breath for a really long time. We can kind of split the difference and just say that like he can hold his breath for a while. How long he can hold his breath for, we don't really know. But if we are talking about like a Red Lantern Wolverine that has Thor trapped in these Hardlight Constructs, because Thor has Mjolnir, he'd probably be able to break out of them. With the Incredible Hulk, his strength would have to probably build up to it. But with Thor, like he's already at base zero. Like he's already got his hammer. And so he could just kind of start hammering at the Hardlight Construct until eventually he breaks out. I don't know exactly how you would take out Thor if you were a Red Lantern. If Wolverine were to grab him and take off all the way out, you know, it's like outside the solar system and fly to like the other side of the galaxy and drop him off, Thor could possibly make it back. It would depend on how far Wolverine took him out. Or Wolverine could fly him out, could like knock him out using a Hardlight Construct if he could, like take him by surprise, like sucker punch him basically, and then fly out to the far side of like the galaxy as fast as he possibly could and drop him off. And the idea could possibly be that Thor would not be able to make it back to Earth in time before he suffocates. But then in that case, he would just call on like Heimdall to use the Bifrost, and then he would show up in Asgard and then come back to Earth, and that would be the end of that. It's this quick teleportation system, more or less. So I don't know exactly how we would defeat Thor. I mean, if we use the old version from like the 1960s, and we said that if he loses contact with his hammer for more than 60 seconds, so if he had that Donald Blake concept, then all it would take is for like Wolverine to take the walking stick and like chuck it into space and then like just kill Donald Blake. I mean, that's all it would really take. But I don't know, the Thor aspect would be a little more difficult. The Sentry, I think, could be done much the same way as like the Incredible Hulk, the same thing with Blue Marvel. You literally just kind of like throw them out there, send them floating out there, throw them in the sun, or any number of things. What could also be done here, this is actually, okay, so here's a really cool idea. What he could do with Thor, the Incredible Hulk, like with the heavy hitters, is if he goes and kills the Fantastic Four, Wolverine's not the sharpest tool in the shed, but he does know how to activate a portal. So what he could do is he could activate the portal to the negative zone, and then like, okay, yeah, then go to the heavy hitters and just be like, hey, I think I found the person who's killing everybody, who took off to the Phantom Zone. We have to go, or to the negative zone. We have to go find him. And then like when they open the negative zone portal, just like close it behind him and then just like leave them stranded in the negative zone. There's no way for them to break out. The only way to get in and out of the negative zone is to use a portal that would allow your energies to cross. Either that, or he could like push them through without reversing their polarity, and they would disintegrate. Deadpool, he could throw in the sun. Deadpool would be done like that. That would be it. The X-Men, I think the full brunt of the X-Men, I think, would be the most difficult thing, or or I guess the mutant population. Because even if you're talking about like the core X-Men roster that's taken out of the Xavier Institute, you are still talking about some pretty powerful beings who were out there. It would just kind of be Wolverine taking them out individually, like using his claws, like popping his claws, and then just kind of slashing at him, so on and so forth, and calling it a day. Captain America, of course, would be one of the first people to go, just because Captain America would be able to kind of like rally the superhero community together. I feel like Iron Man, like the really smart guys, would have to be some of the first people to go, because they'd be able to use their intelligence to decipher pretty quickly what all's going on. Now, what this does is it leaves S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, in reality, S.H.I.E.L.D. could be taken out pretty easily. Like, it wouldn't be that difficult to eliminate them, because you're talking about this great big huge hulking monstrosity of an organization like an intelligence agency. I mean, Captain America did it with the greatest of ease in Secret Empire. I mean, he just tricked everybody into believing that he was a good guy, and they made him head of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, I mean, it's not the most difficult thing to do. With Wolverine having previously been an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., he would have privy to like all their internal files and like all the information and databases that they have. And then from there, like set focus on S.H.I.E.L.D. itself. Taking out the director would be step number one, because if no one knows who they're taking direction from, then the entire system comes crashing down. That would pass to number two, so on and so forth. And he would have to systematically break into S.H.I.E.L.D., destroy their systems or computer systems. He would just kind of have to go through and start killing various people individually. Now, this leaves Nick Fury, who would probably go hide in a bunker. But in reality, if there's really no one left for Nick Fury to rally, then it really doesn't matter in the first place. Just because he's alive doesn't mean he can actually do anything if there's no real way for him to stop anything. And then, yeah, like it would literally just be Wolverine going through systematically and just taking out each member, like each group in the superhero community, using like stealth and you know, guile and deception, all that kind of good stuff. It would definitely make a cool story. Like it would definitely make a cool like what if story. Like what if Wolverine became a Red Lantern and like killed the whole Marvel community? I mean, we know that from like the Enemy of the State what if, like where Wolverine kills the Marvel universe. Like we know about that. That video will be down in the description, by the way. But we know he can do it even with just his claws. I mean, I don't know. It creates an interesting situation. Then the question would become, what would like a lot of the villains do? Like what would a lot of the villains do if they realized what was going on? In the Old Man Logan story, Mysterio uses powers to trick Wolverine into thinking that the various villains of the X-Men had attacked the Xavier Institute, all the while Wolverine was killing the X-Men. So, I mean, it's a little bit different when you're doing that, but like would Mysterio cast an illusion to trick Wolverine into like realizing, hey, look, everything's done. You defeated everybody. Time for you to give up now. You know what I mean? Is that what would happen? You know, like would the heroes and villains band together to stop Wolverine? I mean, that'd be an incredible story. Like that would be an amazing story. But anyway, guys, I figured I'd kind of ramble about this for a little while. I thought it'd be a pretty cool idea. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoy this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.